before I start, I really hope we can look back at this video one day and rhyme, you idiot, or you were wrong. It happened because end of the day, I want this game to happen. I'm a 100% supporter of the Naruto FighterZ movement. Just unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. Now I know what you're thinking. Why are you making this video? What's the point? Well, I kind of want to bring awareness to the awareness that's happening with the Naruto FighterZ movement to kind of explain why something like that is just so unlikely to happen. I want it to happen, it just won't happen anytime soon. You know, a couple weeks ago, I posted a tweet that said the Naruto fandom deserves better video games. Because let's be real, you do. The Naruto games in the last couple of years have been just steadily declining. And ever since the Storm series basically disappeared, it's been really rough. You know, Shinobi Striker, I feel like for the Naruto community is what Battle Z was to the Dragon Ball community back in 2014. I feel like you guys have to struggle before you get into the next big game. And honestly, if Bandai ends up moving into the realm of, like, let's say, a Naruto Xenoverse type of thing, but make it right, you can't tell me that game would be fire. Everybody will make their own ninja and actually have an actual fighting game behind it. That would be so enjoyable. But again, we're so long away from that in itself. So it's like, why will the Naruto FighterZ not happen? Well, to kind of explain, you have to look at what people want. We, you, y'all, everybody, we want basically, in a perfect world, ArcSys to do what they did with Dragon Ball for Naruto. But that's not going to happen. And the reason why is because they're working on other games. End of the day, that's what it is. The big solution is they are currently working on Guilty Gear Strive, which is going to be the next baby for like the next, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And after that, they'll probably have a sequel. On top of that, they're going to be pushing Dragon Ball FighterZ. Maybe they might do Blaze Blue stuff again. But essentially, they kind of got their workload already set for like the next 5 to 10 years. And that's all they're going to be working on. And the chances of them picking up a Naruto IP on top of that is just very, very unlikely. Best case scenario, if we get a Naruto 2D fighting game, with air quotes, because it's not going to be like Fighters, it could be good. I mean, don't get me wrong. ArcSys is not do or die when it comes to making fighting games. For all you know, another company can pick it up and be like, you know what? This is what y'all do with Fighters. Let us show you how to make a real game and end up making something way better. And that's kind of like the best case scenario if we get Naruto from like a 2D competitive fighter. Is another company picks it up and they do it better. But we are kind of sold on the idea of Dragon Ball FighterZ with Naruto characters on it, and it ends up not being necessarily the same game. It might be disappointing. You know, I mean, that's the thing. That's always the risk you get when you make a game. It could be fire, but it could also be really, really bad. I mean, look at Battle Z, look at Shinobi Striker. Technically, they're kind of, you know, terrible examples for this because they're not really fighting games. But they are games where they just absolutely miss the ball, and it could very well happen with something like Naruto. In my opinion, if they're going to do the Naruto franchise, they should do it right. And the best way to do that would be to have ArcSys do it. You know, no matter how long it takes. If it takes like 10 years, have ArcSys do it because they'll probably do it right. They know what they're doing. They did it before with games like Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue, and Dragon Ball FighterZ. They can do it again. Again, they need the resources to do it. And if they do it, it's going to be done right. And I'm under the presumption where I'd rather it be done right than have someone else potentially do it and completely screw everything up. And then the game ends up being pretty bad because that could very well happen. Imagine we waited all these years for a Naruto 2D fighting game for it to basically be like the Battle Z of 2D fighting games. We don't want that. We don't want that. So that's kind of the situation that I wanted to like bring up because a lot of people for some reason they think that when it comes down to making games is done overnight. You know, like ArcSys one day woke up and said, you know what?
We're gonna do Dragon Ball.
But like make a competitive fighter. That's not how it worked. The game's been probably in development for like years before it even got announced. And I mean, technically right now, if they are working on the 2D fighting game, it is currently in development, but we're not going to see it for at least 3 or 4 years. And the other thing, the big problem at the end of the day is the C word, casuals. The reason why we keep seeing games like Jump Force come out, One's Justice, Xenoverse, you know, the Storm series is because casuals buy games. The reason why Dragon Ball FighterZ sold the numbers that it did is 2 reasons. Number 1, the main one, it's got the Dragon Ball IP over it. But 2, it is it's a good entry-level fighting game. But the problem also it ended up falling back to is a lot of people picked it up and they weren't necessarily into it because it's a fighting game. Because let's be real, casuals do not like to lose. You know, I'll never forget when I first got Street Fighter 4 back in 2007. I was so excited to play it. It was my first time coming back to Street Fighter since Third Strike. I was hyped, only to be met with fists and kicks and getting punched into the ground so many times online to the point where I'm like, you know what, this is just not worth it. I'm going to play something else. However, I like fighting games, so I stuck with it, and over time, I learned to play it. But the thing is, not everybody that plays video games has that kind of patience, and they're not necessarily into it. So it's really easy to pick up a game like Budokai, whether you're good or bad, and play it and have a blast, than to hop into a game like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter and just get absolutely blasted online and just not have a good time. Because let's be real, like, who here likes to lose? Anybody here, realistically speaking, do you like to lose? The answer is no. No one likes to lose. the reason why we do it over and over again is because we want to improve. The striving to improve is a big aspect of fighting games, and that's something that a lot of people lose as far as you know, being able to maintain a patience while playing the game. That's why a lot of people, like I said, go to casual games, and that's why casual games keep coming out. Now, in regards to the Naruto world, I feel like what's going to happen next, and this is like my big guess. Shinobi Striker, as much as we may or may not like it, was a massive success. They're probably working on a sequel as we speak. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because for all you know, if it ends up being Shinobi Striker 2, if they do everything right, the sequel could be fire. Never forget how bad Xenoverse 1 was. We enjoyed it, but the game was just awful. It was terrible. And when they released Xenoverse 2, they improved on so much. The game was like ages ahead of Xenoverse 1. It wasn't perfect. It was still broken. It still has issues. But when you compare both games, they were completely, it was night and day. If they do Shinobi Striker 2, or even take the next step and make like a Xenoverse-style Naruto game, that will be massive. But then that ends up us taking us to another predicament the next couple years. If Shinobi Striker 2 comes out and it's massively successful, we might see a Shinobi Striker 3. Or we might see Naruto Xenoverse. And what that ends up doing is it basically creates the next game, which would be Naruto Xenoverse 2, and essentially puts us in like 2030 before they start thinking, you know what? Maybe it's the perfect time to really test the waters and do a Naruto FighterZ. Like I said, it could happen, just not anytime soon. And the question is how long can we keep the movement going, like, you know, hoping and waiting for it to come out when it's not going to happen? See, essentially what I'm trying to avoid is I'm trying to avoid creating like this sense of false hope where people think every time a game is about to get announced it's going to be Naruto FighterZ, and when it ends up not being that, we all get mad and disappointed. Like, we're setting ourselves up for huge disappointment by assuming because we posted a couple of tweets and we make a couple of videos that Naruto FighterZ is going to happen. Like I said, it could happen. We're just not looking at a release for that for at least like the next 7 to 10 years, which is a long time. And with everything going on in the world, are we even going to last that long? I have no idea. Point is Dragon Ball was able to do what they did with Dragon Ball FighterZ because Dragon Ball IP, for starters, they've been releasing, you know, decent games every single year for like the last couple years. Well, air quotes, decent games. And the franchise was so safe that they knew that end of the day, worst case scenario, people will buy it, but they might not necessarily play it. But it worked. FighterZ absolutely worked. In my opinion, I think FighterZ is one of the best fighting games in a long time. Only because it's like the perfect game for any casual to pick up and actually learn. Obviously, you know, if you've been playing fighting games your entire life, you might not agree with that because, like, you know, you got other games like Tekken, which are like ages ahead of FighterZ in regards to tech. But the problem is Tekken is hard to play. And, you know, Tekken is not a game that a casual will pick up and think, let me go ahead and what are those notations? Well, hold on, why is it y equals mx plus b to do a combo? That's how casuals will react to a game like Tekken, you know. At least in FighterZ, it's like, you know, you can get introduced to the fighting game world, and either you'll realize you don't like it, or you might realize, you know what, this is kind of dope, and you might actually really dive into it. Because let's be real, when FighterZ came out, there was a lot of people that actually learned to play fighting games because of Dragon Ball FighterZ. And prior to that, they probably never touched it before. In fact, if that's you, let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, Naruto FighterZ, as much as we want it, it's just one of those things that's just a pipe dream at this point. It's just not likely to happen anytime soon, and if it does, the question is can it be done right? Again, in a perfect world, and this is a question I'm asking for you guys as well. In a perfect world, ArcSys somehow figures out they can get more resources to work on, while they're working on Guilty Gear, FighterZ, they find another set of resources to work on the Naruto game, and then they have another IP added to their franchise. That would be fire. It just, based on the workload, especially with everything going on in the world with like the virus, it's just not likely to happen anytime soon. So the next best scenario is another company picks it up, but then the problem is either they'll do it absolutely right, or oh god, there'll be everything wrong with it. So yeah, you know, in fact, let me ask you guys, and if I remember to edit into the video, I'll have like a poll in the top corner that says that if another company picks it up, actually, how do you prefer it? Would you rather prefer that ArcSys picks up, you know, the Naruto IP and they make essentially Naruto FighterZ, or would you rather risk having another company pick it up and they do their own version of a 2D fighting game with the Naruto franchise, which again could be potentially really, really good, but it could potentially be really, really wrong? Which one do you want? And based on that, I guess, poll, it'll kind of further solidify what we as a community want when it comes down to something like this. Because again, at least in my opinion, I think the best thing to do it is if ArcSys does it. Because ArcSys has been doing anime games for a long time, you know, from BlazBlue to Guilty Gear to stuff like that. And if they pick it up, I feel like they'll do it right. It's just the problem is I don't think they literally have the resources to do it. On top of that, it's not their focus. On top of that, saying that a lot, I feel like the Naruto series right now isn't doing the best. I mean, Boruto has great characters. No one can deny that. You know, it's like Dragon Ball GT had great characters. Dragon Ball Super had great characters, but when it comes down to story, it's not necessarily the best. It's literally just they're driven by nostalgia to keep the series going and have brand awareness so they can keep pushing merch. And I feel like if Boruto was doing a lot better, like let's say Boruto had the same hype that like Demon Slayer had in 2019, we probably would have gotten a fire game by now. Like, let's be real. So maybe at some point Boruto will do even better as a series over the course of the next, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And the fandom spikes, makes it so much more popular than ever before. That's when Bandai or any other company, most likely Bandai, realizes, you know what? Maybe we can try something like this, and that's when we'll start taking steps to seeing these games come out. But again, anytime soon, more likely not. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. That's just the state of the world. And yeah, that's all I can say. It's like, again, we want it, but it's just not gonna happen anytime soon. If that makes sense. So yeah. Comment section below, let me know your thoughts. Again, I really hope that I'm wrong one day, and for all we know, maybe next week they announce Naruto FighterZ, then I'll be the donkey of the day. Because again, I want the game to come out. I'm just being realistic right now and kind of explaining how everything works because that's the best way to do it. Yeah. Anyways, these comments are about to be interesting, so let's all be nice to each other and let's see what everybody has to say. But in the perfect world, what is the perfect way to do a Naruto-style 2D fighting game for you? Let me know down below. We'll end at that. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Rhymestyle. I'll see you in the comment section below. Peace.